White Dudes for Harris gained its most prominent member yet yesterday when Kamala received the endorsement of Russian President Vladimir Putin.
If we can name a favorite candidate, it used to be Joe Biden, but now he is not participating in the election campaign, and he recommended all his allies to support Ms. Harris. So that is what we are going to do. So it was, well, he said that we should, that is why we should also do that. Well, her laugh, she's laughing, her laugh is so fascinating. It means that everything is good, and if everything is good, it means that, for instance, if we're speaking about Joe Biden, there are so many sanctions against Russia introduced, and if everything is good with Ms. Harris, maybe she'll refrain herself from such measures, or maybe she'll change them. So in the end, it will be the choice of the U.S. people, and we will respect this choice.
So he endorses Kamala. The establishment media, of course, immediately sought to downplay the endorsement. Bloomberg News gave a representative reaction when it wrote, quote, Putin's comments effectively amounted to presidential trolling. But then Bloomberg accidentally undercut its point in the very next paragraph when it pointed out, quote, Putin said Biden was predictable when he told state television in February that he'd prefer him over Trump in the White House. Putin's line about Kamala's fascinating laugh was obviously tongue-in-cheek, but the endorsement wasn't. The proof is that Putin supported Trump in 2016. Putin publicly stated that he supported Trump because he thought Trump might be a little softer on it, might be a little more amenable to closer bilateral relations. Then Putin turned on Trump because Trump was unpredictable. All of this was widely reported, even in the liberal press. Trump reportedly told Putin that he would bomb Moscow if Putin invaded Ukraine. And because Trump was so unpredictable, Putin didn't take the chance. Even if it was only a 5% chance that Trump was telling the truth and not bluffing, Putin couldn't risk it. Trump's presidency was the only one of the past 4 during which Putin did not launch a new invasion. Then in 2020, Putin endorsed Biden, again, explicitly for Biden's predictability. And now he's doing the same for Kamala. It's funny that Putin has endorsed Kamala Harris. It's funny that anyone would endorse Kamala Harris. But in the case of Putin, it also makes perfect sense. If you're the leader of America's most prominent geopolitical foe for the past 80 years, who do you want to face down? Trump or Kamala? It does not take Metternich, okay? It does not take a geopolitical mastermind to come up with the obvious answer. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. The comedian Will Ferrell is now making a very serious movie about transgenderism on Netflix. We will get to the bizarre promo for that movie in a moment. First, though, speaking of flaming things, we need to light up this delicious PSL candle. You go to thecandleclub.com. Don't forget the duh. You get the PSL candle. Sicilian summer, it's over. Deader than disco. Now you got to get the PSL candle. You could also get the Old Soul candle. You could also get Chaim de Lachem. You could also get Wise Man. That one's real good. That'll make your home smell like a 12th century monastery. You could also get the Mayflower line of candles. That's even higher grade, nice color glasses of color, we say today. Thecandleclub.com. Now, before we get into anything else, I want to tell you about Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com, promo code Knowles. Balance of Nature fruits and veggies is the most convenient way to get whole fruits and vegetables daily. They take fruits and vegetables, freeze-dry them, turn them into a powder, then put them into a capsule. Balance of Nature is just one ingredient of a balanced lifestyle and has no intention to replace a healthy diet, exercise, sleep, or any other healthy habits. It's intended to be used in concert with other healthy habits. Balance of Nature is a great way when you're on the road and maybe you're not always getting those perfect fruits and vegetables all day long. It's a great way to just ensure you are getting the kind of nutrients that you want to have. You know me, I'm not the most physically fit here, but even the more brawny and athletically inclined at this office, they love Balance of Nature. And you can too. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Knowles, KNWLES, for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That is balanceofnature.com, promo code Knowles. You got a Putin endorsement for Kamala. Unfortunately, another geopolitical mastermind is also weighing in Kamala's favor. That would be Alan Lichtman. Alan Lichtman is a controversial figure in political prognostication because this guy has correctly predicted almost every presidential election since 1984. The exception is the year 2000, and Lichtman kind of writes that one off because there was so much controversy. It was a disputed election, and he holds Gore still kind of won it, but the courts intervened and blah, blah, blah. Okay, he's got a very good track record. Statisticians hate him. The real serious political scientists don't like him very much because his method of prediction does not involve sophisticated statistical analysis or polls or looking at the battleground states. It just includes 13 keys like, is this candidate charismatic? Is the economy doing well? Is there peace abroad? You know, kind of simpler criteria. But he's got a pretty good track record, and he says Kamala's going to win. According to Lichtman, who's a professor at American University, as of right now, even if foreign policy falls to hell, even if certain events break against Kamala, it's too late. Basically, Trump is totally screwed. I really hope this guy is proven wrong again. I mean, don't forget, when everyone touts the Lichtman prediction right now, they're going to say he's predicted every single election since Reagan too. However, he did get one of those wrong. He got the year 2000 wrong. And the argument there is, well, the year 2000 was unusual. You know, it was a disputed election. There were controversial election measures, just balloting measures in Florida. And yeah, that's true. But wouldn't you say that 2024 is an unusual election? Probably would, you know, trying to put a candidate in jail, then having his head almost blown off, and then, coming after COVID where they had changed all the election rules. And so I don't think we need to all despair, doom and gloom, black pill right now. But it's a reminder, Republicans are going to have to fight tooth and nail, even on under the best of circumstances, we would have to fight tooth and nail. Right now, the odds are against us for many, many reasons, but we have to fight tooth and nail. We have to register every voter we can. We have to get out there, pull every single vote we can. We need every poll watcher in the room. We can't let pipes burst in the middle of the night. We can't let the recount go on for 6-7 days. We've got to fight. Don't forget what happened in 2020. 2020, we go to bed on election night. Trump looks like he's winning. We wake up, some ballot counting is stopped in the middle of the night, and takes a little while for some others, and some mail-ins come in, and we don't even know what the dates are on the mail-in ballots, and there are legal battles over whether to count them. But what do you know? In the end, Biden comes out victorious. And Trump, of course, disputed this election. He said, I won. They stole it from me. We need to stop the certification of the election. We're going to have an alternate spates of electors who are going to come in, and we're going to resolve this thing in Congress, as they did in 1876. Well, President Trump made a huge pivot yesterday, a 180-degree pivot on his take on the 2020 election. He came out on the Lex Friedman podcast and said that he lost. I think this is the first time he said he lost the 2020 election by a whisker.
How do you think you'll do in the debate coming up? It's in a few days.
So I've done a lot of debating, only as a politician. I never debated. My first debate was the Rosie O'Donnell debate, right? The famous Rosie O'Donnell debate, the answer. But I've done well with debates. I mean, I became president. Then the second time, I got millions more votes than I got the first time. So I was told if I got 63 million, which is what I got the first time, you would win. You can't not win. And I got millions of more votes than that, and lost by a whisker. But And look what happened to the world with all of the wars and all of the problems.
Okay, so you read the headlines, Trump admits that he lost. But then you watch the video, it doesn't seem to me that Trump is admitting he lost. The way he says it, you can tell he's grinding his teeth on this. It seems like there's some irony to his statement. And then what happened? And then, I lost by a whisker, I guess. Is that what you... It seems to me that he's in a really terrible spot right now. Because he wants to win over moderate and centrist voters, the small number of voters who are independent, who are not totally tuned in politically. He doesn't want to turn them off by appearing extreme and radical and as though he's doubting the results of an election, like the Democrats have done many, many times over the past several decades. So he has to, in that way, suggest that he lost. But of course, if he acknowledges that he lost the 2020 election, well, then he would appear to be culpable for telling people that he didn't lose the election, for holding a rally on January 6th, after which people went into the Capitol and then were unjustly prosecuted by the liberal establishment, grannies thrown in prison for what? If Trump seriously believes that the 2020 election wasn't rigged, well, then what was it all for? Now, some Trump critics, including Trump critics on the right, are saying, this is awful. This is Trump admitting that he was lying the whole time or something. But again, that's not my read. You just listened to it. You just watched it. Does that sound like a man who sincerely believes that he fair and square lost the election? No. And most reasonable people don't honestly believe that, because the libs changed all the election rules, in some cases unconstitutionally, in the weeks and months before the 2020 election. So he's in this brutal spot. But because he said this, he now has to have an answer for the debate. This is going to come up at the debate. Probably the moderators are going to bring it up. If not, Kamala would be insane not to bring it up. Donald, you admitted that you lost the 2020 election. You admitted it publicly. So why did you lie to your supporters? Why did you try to subvert American democracy on claims that you knew were a lie, Donald? That's going to be guaranteed. That's a question. Unless he can immediately come up with a really good answer and get this out of the news, that is going to be a question. So he, at the very least, needs a good answer at the debate. Now, what he could say is, well, COVID was the excuse to lock down the whole country and change all the rules. The problem that he has with that answer is he was president during COVID. And I don't really blame him for most of the COVID measures, because I think in many ways they were undertaken against his will. But he was still the president. So in as much as there were federal measures, he bears responsibility for that. So how can he get out of this? It looks like he's totally in a corner. The answer is he can blame the rigging of the 2020 election on the corruption of Democrat governors and Democrat secretaries of state who are in charge of elections. That's the answer. He can't blame the federal COVID measures because he was responsible for those. He can't say that he's really the president, like he's Charles Stewart, the prince over the water or the king over the water or something, the pretender president. No, he's saying, look, I'm not the president right now, but oh yeah, I lost. He can keep winking at that as he is in this interview. But I think he's got to say the Democrat governors, usually Democrat governors, I guess he might blame some Republican governors too, used COVID as an excuse to rig the election against him. And it was wrong, and it was illegal and unconstitutional in some cases, and we're not going to let it happen again. I think that's the best way he can have his cake and eat it too, but he needs an answer. This should be priority number one in debate preparation for the Trump campaign, because the Harris team is they see this as an underhand softball, and they are ready to knock this one out of the park. Now, I would sleep much better at night if I knew that the debate preparation had checked every single box here. I already sleep great though, and that is in no small part thanks to Helix. Go to helixsleep.com/Knowles. There is nothing like a good night's sleep. But how can you rest easy when you're tossing and turning on a subpar mattress? You can't. That's where Helix comes in. I have had my Helix mattress for 4 years now or so. It is a game changer. I absolutely love it. It's a very, very comfortable mattress. So comfortable that I trust the mattress for my little boy. And I'm going to trust the mattress for my other little boys when they get out of the crib and they go into the mattress as well. It is magnificent. And Helix offers 20 different mattress models, each designed for specific sleep positions and preferences. Their sleep quiz matches you with the perfect mattress for your sleeping habits. Helix mattresses are 100% fiberglass free. They offer a 100-night trial and a 10 to 15-year warranty. So here's the deal, amici miei. It is a good deal. Helix is offering our listeners 25% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows. Go to helixsleep.com/Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S. HELIXSLEEP.com/KNWLES. With Helix, better sleep starts N-O-W. On Tuesday, September 10th, President Trump and Kamala Harris are set to face off for the aforementioned presidential debate. We are going backstage to bring you a live simulcast of the debate from the most trusted voices in conservative media. That's me. Also, you'll hear from Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Andrew Klavan, and Jeremy Boring for full coverage and analysis. Watch live on DailyWire Plus. Now, this interview with Lex Fridman was quite a good one. During that same interview, Trump made a really, really important point. And the point was even more profound, perhaps, than he intended for it to be.
One of the tragic things about life is that it ends. How often do you think about your death? Are you afraid of it?
I have a friend who's very, very successful, and he's in his 80s, mid-80s, and he asked me that exact same question. I turned it around. I said, well, what about you? He said, I think about it every minute of every day. And then a week later, he called me to tell me something, and he starts off the conversation by going, tick, tock, tick, tock.
Yeah.
This is a dark person, in a sense, but it is what it is. I mean, if you're religious, you have, I think, a better feeling toward it. You're supposed to go to heaven, ideally not hell, but you're supposed to go to heaven if you're good. I think our country's missing a lot of religion. I think it really was a much better place with religion. It was almost a guide, to a certain extent it was a guide. You want to be good to people. Without religion, there are no guardrails. I'd love to see us get back to religion, more religion in this country.
This is a profound answer on so many levels. First off, he talks about his friend who says he thinks about death all the time. I, too, think about death all the time. It sounds kind of depressing, but it's really not depressing. I think about death all of the time, in part because, if you've ever had any experience of death, a family member or a close friend, it really calls your attention to it, and all of us will have an experience of that at some point or other. But also because it reminds you that that's where we're all going. That is the end. And you know the nature of a thing by its end, by what it's for. And we are going to die. So that tells us something about us, and it raises all sorts of questions. Trump says, and if you're religious, maybe that you feel a little bit better about it. Maybe you do. But you at least feel more intentional about it. You want to make sure that you are in a state of grace, that you're not in a state of mortal sin. You've got to make sure that you are availing yourself of the graces that are available to us to avoid a permanent death, and damnation. And there are all sorts of questions that come from that. But we think about that all the time. And as Trump says, if you're religious, right? He seems to be excluding himself from that. And I think probably most Americans would exclude themselves from that. Or even if they say, I'm Christian or I'm Jewish, but they don't, maybe they don't take it very seriously. I know, I'm not that religious. I'm not too religious. Okay, well then, what do you think about it? He says we need to get back to religion. And why does he say we need to get back to religion? He's not here. He's not a Bible thumper, right? That's kind of what's so refreshing about Trump is he's this figure that is representing a popular recognition that we have to return to Christianity, that we have to return to kind of normal society, the way we used to live when our civilization was at its height. But he is so open about being an imperfect vessel, You know, he said, look at me. Even when he jokes about how he doesn't drink, oh, could you imagine the only good thing you can say about me is I don't drink. If I drank, I'd be the worst. You know, there's a refreshing humility, ironically, to Trump. And he says, we got to get back to religion, because when we had religion, we had guardrails. And I love this term, guardrails. It reminds me of a homily that my priest preached recently, which was about the nature of sin. You know, most people think sin is just breaking the rules, but it's not breaking the rules. That's a childish understanding of sin. Sin is, as he pointed out, the violation of a relationship of grace. And the rules are there as guardrails. The rules are there to show us when we're maybe more likely to violate that relationship of grace. But sin is not just like, oh, well, oops, yeah, your toe is that far over the line. You know, blow the whistle, you're out. That's not what it is. It's the violation of a relationship of grace. And guardrails are important, not just in our individual lives or in our individual relationships to God, but they're important politically. You know, when you transgress in the body politic, you commit a crime or you engage in some kind of corruption, it's not just that you broke a rule. It's that you violated a relationship that is supposed to be one of love and charity and common concern, and a relationship that is oriented toward the common good. That's what we're all doing together in politics. When societies get really litigious, when societies get really legalistic, something has already started to rot in the core of that society. In communities that are tightly bound, that are brought together, united in purpose, that have a shared sense of identity and a clear perception of the common good, they tend not to be quite so legalistic. They don't always lawyer up about every issue. They work it out in a way that is organic and charitable and gracious. That's, even if you don't think about God much at all, even if you don't think about theology or the deeper aspects of religion at all, just from a political perspective, we have to restore that kind of sense, the sense of sharing a relationship of grace and a relationship of charity, and a politics that is grounded much more in that than it is on breaking some stupid rule. Because if it's all just about breaking some stupid rule, you can indict a ham sandwich and we're going to wind up a tin pot dictatorship or a banana republic if we're not that already. Okay, speaking of health, the health of the body politic, I want to talk about the health of your body. That's why I want to talk about Lumen. Go to lumen.me, use code Knowles. It is tough to prioritize your health, especially if you're not sure where to start. So I got the perfect place for you to start. That is Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It is a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. It looks kind of like one of those vape things that potheads use, but it's not that. It's actually good for your health, but sometimes when I'm playing with my Lumen in my office, people look at me a little funny. Well, it's so sleek, it's so modern, it's so simple. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning. You will know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen takes your unique metabolic data, crafts a personalized nutrition plan tailored to your body's needs and goals. You don't need to think about it. With Lumen, you're not just getting a device, you are getting a health companion. Breathe into it before and after workouts and meals. Gain real-time insights into your body's metabolic response. Lumen will provide you with actionable tips, simple, practical stuff to help you stay on top of your health game. If you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Knowles to get 15% off your Lumen. lumen.me. Use code Knowles for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. My favorite comment yesterday is from George Will Lemin. It's probably not George Will, the columnist rather. It's George Will Lemin, 4170, who says, a Taylor breakup would be a travesty. I laughed when I first saw it. I'm a sucker for a good pun. Speaking of guardrails falling away, we have a DailyWire exclusive. This here from our friend Mary Margaret Olahan. There's a school district in Colorado that had kids. Speaking of transvestites, Will Ferrell is making a movie with Netflix. Not a comedy movie, though he's a comedian. He's making a serious movie about transgenderism.
And eventually became the head writer of SNL. And over the years, he became one of my closest friends. And then one day, I got this email. Hey, Will, Something I need you to know. I'll be transitioning to live as a woman.
I don't doubt that Will is my friend, but I'm not Andrew Steele anymore.
It was just, whoa.
I love this country so much, I just don't know if it loves me back right now. Were you a little worried about how to talk to me when I came out to you?
Yeah, probably a little nervous.
I'm not really afraid of these people. I'm afraid of hating myself.
There it is. Okay, there's a much longer trailer, but there it is. Will Ferrell is buddies with this guy. This guy is a comedian, comedy writer, worked for SNL. So already, probably, I think virtually everyone who works in show business and certainly every comedian's got a little bit of a screw loose. I think that's not just an occupational hazard, but a requirement. And then Will Ferrell finds out later this guy now wants to pretend to be a woman. So what does the guy say? He says, I love this country so much, I just don't think it loves me right now. I'm so oppressed because of my true identity. I'm coming out as a woman. I wasn't a woman for most of I didn't think I was a woman most of my life, but now I'm coming out. I'm a woman now, and this country doesn't like me because of its bigotry. But then he admits the real story later on. He said, I'm not afraid of these people. Who are these? I guess I'm these people. I get Matt Walsh is these people. I guess the conservatives are these people who don't believe in it because it's obviously false and don't want to support it because it's harmful to everyone. He says, I'm not afraid of these people. Actually, back when I was talking about how the country doesn't like me and when we talk about how the phobias and the great threats to, that's not real. What I'm really afraid of is hating myself. Right. That's what it's about. That's exactly what it's about. And why does he have that fear? Because he knows that what he's saying and the way that he's living is not true. It's not rational. It doesn't accord with reality. That's what it's about. Two views of the issue. The lib view is that is real and a man can really be born in the wrong body or something. And the only reason that these people have anxiety and depression and suicide and commit suicide at extraordinarily high rates is because society won't accept them. The other take is, no, even when society does accept them, they're still very anxious and very depressed and very likely to commit suicide. And actually, it doesn't matter how the society reacts, that the problem seems to be the killer seems to be inside the house. This guy is admitting the latter is true. The first part is cope. The first part is calumny against conservatives and just normal people who know men can't become women. The second part is the real thing. I'm afraid of hating myself. Okay. Then that means, that is a I don't want to do an end zone dance or beat a dead horse here, but that means my CPAC speech is totally vindicated. Because that is an implicit acknowledgement that the affirmation of this ideology doesn't solve the problem and perhaps even makes the problem worse. This is a vindication of every conservative who said, no, we're not going to do this stuff in schools. For every conservative who says, we're not going to accept this anywhere because it's not true and therefore it's not going to help anybody. It almost makes me want to watch this Will Ferrell movie, almost. In exactly 1 week, the DailyWire's first ever theatrical release, Am I Racist?, will be hitting theaters across the nation. Check out this teaser.
I used to be a white woman, an unsuccessful one, for many decades, and it was a miserable experience. And really, the hatred of yourselves and each other is like the not seeing your power, the being afraid. Like, all you do is talk about each other, talk about yourself. Oh my God, I'm so fat.
That's all they do. I'm telling you, these white women.
But that's it. I'm so fat, I'm so stupid, I'm blah, blah, blah.
Sorry.
Your kids are watching you, and they're watching you talking about each other, raging against the machine or being silent or whatever the hell it is that you're doing or not doing, and they know that you're not doing it for them.
That's so important. That is so important what you just said. It's really important. That's
We
all.
may have to add you to our team.
Oh, I would love to take a seat and join you.
No, you're not allowed to.
Okay.
Definitely not allowed.
Okay. I do have my DEI certification that I got.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
not saying I'm an expert, but I'm also not a novice. So, okay.
White people are starved for these conversations.
We are. We're so starving.
Yeah.
We are so starving for this.
Anyone else want to say anything?
I'll just say one thing. I'm so glad we can have these conversations, and I'll be done. But I'm just so glad that we could all get together to have these conversations. That's all I wanted to say.
Is he an actor? Are you an actor?
Oh,
Can
no.
you let us, we're trying to listen and trying to have this conversation.
Okay. You know, we're all acting all the time in our lives. And I think that that's part of the problem, you know? That it's like we're all trying to play a part rather than just being real and having these uncomfortable conversations. And that's what I'm always trying to tell people, especially, white women. No offense, but...
No, but see, like, you're a white dude. There's power positions, and, it's pointing white people pointing fingers at each other is not helpful.
I've been on this journey for so long, and just to see you guys at the table having this conversation has been really enlightening for me. Anyway, I got the DEI certification, and I'm just on the journey. All right, you ladies have a great night.
Decolonize yourself. Do your own white supremacy dismantling. And then you can start to bring in other people.
Can I just say one last thing? Can I just propose a toast? Just raise a glass if you're racist. And that's the thing.
Cheers. Oh, I'm not racist. Let me
To
put my
racist, well,
glass.
all the rest of it. To racist.
They gonna say you racist.
Am I Racist? In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13. Buy tickets now.
I cannot wait to watch the movie. I still have not seen a single frame that has not been released publicly. I want to watch it at the premiere. I want to see it in a theater. Theaters are selling out fast. New venues are being added daily to meet the demand. Get your tickets to see that stone cold psycho Matt Walsh at amiracist.com. Finally, we've arrived at my favorite time of the week when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. The mailbag is sponsored by Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles today. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get 1 year free of DailyWire Plus Insider.
Hi, Michael. My name is Kelsey, and I'm a big fan of your show. I am 24, and my younger sister is turning 15 next month. She recently mentioned to me about how she doesn't feel that Christianity and God are quote-unquote for her. Like, she doesn't believe God is a thing. I asked her to elaborate a bit, and she explained to me that back when she was going to a private Christian elementary school, life felt gray and she hated herself. And she felt like she was never good enough. But as soon as she became agnostic, she felt like the world had color again. We have divorced parents, so I really worry about her, especially without the attention she should have from our dad and seeks out from other sources. I want her to find God as I did in high school, but I know that it can't be forced. Do you have any advice or insight on the situation? Thank you, and again, love the show.
Okay, really good question. Sorry to hear the trouble for your sister. The divorce explains it. Not to be too reductive or get into too much psychobabble, but you seem to intuit that as well, that the divorce does help to explain it. So she says, she's in this kind of funk, and she says, the world is gray according to Christianity. But the moment that I throw out Christianity, wow, it all seems really colorful. It kind of reminds me of when Pinocchio goes to Pleasure Island. And it all seems really fun at first, but then they all turn into jackasses. And it's like taking a drug. You'd say, oh man, I dropped I could hear color, man. Yeah, sure. It can seem really vibrant, and it's very intoxicating for a short period of time. But I promise you'll have gray in perpetuity once the high wears off. So she's obviously the issue would appear to be circumstantial and emotional rather than rational for her. The question you got to figure out is how you can most easily appeal to her. When I was an atheist, I became an atheist at 13, and I got out of it some years later, starting in college and then finally after college. But I became an atheist because I was well, I'm sure for lots of reasons, but one of which was that I was precocious and kind of a punk kid who thought I was much smarter than I was. And Christopher Hitchens was appealing to that exact audience at the time. All the new atheists, Richard Dawkins and all the rest. So the way that I got out of it was when I met people who were smarter than me, making arguments that were smarter than the Christopher Hitchens arguments that convinced me that appealed to my intellectual hubris. It probably is not the same for you, little sister. You got to figure out where exactly the hang-up is, and then counter that hang-up. Meet her there, and then the rest of it can follow. Next question.
Hi, Michael. It's the Shuckmeister. IVF has been a real sticking point in the news recently, and some vocal Catholics, especially online, are completely opposed to voting for any candidate who supports it in any capacity. Many have used the phrase, "the ends never justify the means," taken straight from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, to opt out of voting in this election. While I very much disagree with this stance, it is seemingly completely consistent with the Church's teachings. So how would you rationalize with a person who takes this stance? I would think it's a matter of prudence to make the choice that gives the most glory to God. But what do you think? Love the show. Thanks.
Okay, great question, Mr. Shuckmeister. Good to hear you back on the show after some time not landing in the mailbag. Look, a lot of people, not just Catholics, Southern Baptists, other people who have moral problems with IVF are dealing with this question. Though it's the same issue that broadly pro-life people have dealt with for many years, with Republicans who sometimes go a little bit squishy on the issue, while the opponents are radically in favor of abortion and IVF and all the rest of it. So it seems to me that we would be easily justified in voting for Trump over Kamala here, because Kamala is so radically in favor of these horrible things. And Trump, at least while he was in office, has the most pro-life record of any president in my lifetime. One further consolation that we might have is that Trump is saying things and campaigning in a more aggressive manner to win over votes in the middle than is reflective of how he would actually govern. Kamala's outright lying. Kamala's saying, I want to close the border. I want to stop the migrant crisis. She's currently in charge of it. So she's obviously lying. If she wanted to do that, she could do it today. When it comes to Trump might seriously want to enact some policy to protect IVF, but when he gets in, he might not be able to pull over enough Republican members of Congress and the Senate to actually get that done. And is that really at the top of Trump's list? Probably not. Trump might be speaking in a way that's a little squishier on abortion right now, but Trump's also said many times, look, we just have to get elected. Is enshrining some right to an abortion at the top of Trump's list? And even if it were, would Congress and the Senate go along? Probably not. And would he care that they don't go along? Probably not too much on that either. So that would be one way of consoling yourself. But politics is the art of the possible, and the art of inclusion. And here, if you had a squishier Democrat, if you had a more moderate Democrat, that might make it more difficult. But here, you've just got the most radically pro-abortion, pro-IVF, pro-your kids candidate that we've ever had in our nation's history. And with Trump, you have a significantly more, as a matter of record, pro-life, consistent traditional sexual ethic candidate, given our present times, then probably would be likely. So to me, that's not a difficult choice. Next question.
Hi, Michael. Congratulations on your third child. I'm currently 37 weeks pregnant with our third child. Our first two are 3 and a year and a half, and they're both boys. This one we found out was a girl, and we are so excited. We have had some weird encounters with people at church and Bible studies and just randomly out in our community that will tell me when I tell them I'm having a girl that raising a girl is really no differently than raising a boy, and that they would never raise their daughters or treat their daughters differently than they would treat their sons. How would you respond to this? And if you ever have a girl, how would you treat her differently or raise her differently than your sons? We believe in gender roles, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. We're planning on homeschooling. So I really want to show my daughter what it is like to be a more traditional woman.
Well, you probably have the answer to your question. Given that addendum at the end, I think you have the answer to the question you're asking me. But I suppose what I would say, if someone came up to me and said, oh, I would never treat my sons any differently than I treat my daughters. I would never, absolutely not. I think the sexes are exactly the same. I would probably turn to them, and in my best African accent, I would say, why are you are, and I wouldn't be doing it as well as that African anchor did on air, but I'd do a reasonably okay impression, because that's what they're talking about. If you think that the two sexes are indiscernible and substitutable one for the other, then you're establishing a gay anthropology or anthropology. It's all kind of the same. But I, like you, think that men and women really are different. And I think that men are terrific, can be terrific, and women can be terrific. But men can't be terrific when they act like women, and women can't be terrific when they act like men. They can't be most fully themselves because they're a little bit different. So how would I treat them differently? Well, I probably wouldn't sign my daughter up for boxing lessons. Maybe my son, I don't know. I'd definitely get my son involved in certain sports. Maybe it's unlikely that a Knowles would end up playing football, but if he wanted to play football, I don't know, maybe sign him up for football. My daughter, I probably wouldn't sign up for football. I'd more likely sign her up for ballet, but maybe tennis or something. I don't know, maybe some other sport that she gets into. They could both be involved in the arts. I think that's music, even theater they could do. But I would probably be a little bit more protective of my daughter when she started dating. I'd probably be a little bit tougher on my sons when they started dating, because in dating, men pursue and women are pursued, and men can get girls into trouble and girls can get into trouble because of men, and that's just a fact. And that's going to imply different responsibility and all sorts of different issues. So that's what I would do. I would just be normal about it, which I highly recommend. I'll get to one written mailbag before we get to the member segment. From Elena. Michael, love your show. I listen every day. I've been hearing so much about Project 2025 lately. Oh, here we go. But I haven't heard anyone really explain what it is. What exactly is the infamous Project 2025? Okay, the real answer is Project 2025 is a database of potential White House staffers put together by the Heritage Foundation. That's all it is. That's all it is. Project 2025 is just pulling together the names and information of people who could fill the many, many thousands of roles that will become available if a Republican wins the White House. Because it was difficult for Trump in 2016 to staff the administration. And personnel is policy. So if you don't have the people to enact your policies, then you don't really have political power. That's all it is. And it's not even a guarantee that you get the job. It's just a database of people who can be suggested to staff a potential Republican administration, which in this case would be a Trump administration because he won the nomination. That's all it is. And the libs have turned it into this dastardly plan to get rid of the infield fly rule in Major League Baseball, or this plan to outlaw Cholula sauce so that all your tacos taste bland now, or whatever they want to say it is. It's just a way to make it a little bit easier for the transition team to make sure they have people to work for an administration. That's all it is. It's fine. It's cool, man. Don't worry about it. All those headlines about Project 2025 are fake. And we will have some fake headlines in the Memroom segmentum. The show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me.
Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey.
If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gonna say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you in this field.
Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah.
This country is a piece of...
white
Folks.
White.
Trash.
White
supremacy. White woman. White boy.
Is there a black person around here?
What's a black person right here? Does he not exist?
Say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. What's your name?
I'm Matt.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gonna say you racist.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.